This documentary, many themes in it are so touching. It has moved so many people in Japan and China because it captures the life of average people with plain narrative, brimming with truth, goodwill, and beautifulness. We hope to see more films like this, which are down to earth and heartwarming, and will enhance the mutual understanding and friendship between the people of the two countries. Next question.
谢谢发言人。中新社记者提问。
China News Service. The American Chamber in Hong Kong recently issued a statement saying that the institution over the past 50 years or so has been cooperating with the Hong Kong SAR government to build Hong Kong into a global business center, incorporating with the values of rule of law and so on. What's your comment? Since Hong Kong's return to the motherland, it has fully leveraged the unique advantages of drawing support from the mainland and facing the globe. Its status as an international financial shipping and trading center has been consolidated. It is held as the most liberate, open, prosperous, and vigorous region in the world. In the economic Liberty Index issued by relevant U.S. institution, Hong Kong ranks the second worldwide. Recently, the anti-China Hong Kong disruptors have been engaging in large-scale violent and criminal activities to undermine the social order in Hong Kong, seriously disrupted the Hong Kong people's life and property safety, affects the normal operation of business in Hong Kong. The implementation of the national security law will provide strong institutional guarantees for one country, two systems, and is conducive to the long-term stability and prosperity of Hong Kong. It will better protect the freedoms and rights enjoyed by Hong Kong residents, and will also better safeguard the legitimate rights and interests of investors in Hong Kong. Looking forward, as the reform and opening up continues to unleash a strong economic vigor, and as Hong Kong developed closer ties with the motherland and other regions and countries in the world, Hong Kong will surely usher in a better future, and businesses in Hong Kong will have brighter future. We welcome American businesses and businesses from other countries to continue operating in Hong Kong, and we wish them greater success. We also hope those who support the development and the prosperity of Hong Kong in American business community and the rest of the world can work together to make Hong Kong and this pearl of the Orient shine brighter. Next question. University. 据比利时的国家情报机构发布的报告，有一些中国留学生可能为中国政府当间谍，和中国军队分享信息。比方还称他们正在试图找出这些将对比利时国家安全造成威胁的学生。你对此有回应？ The Chinese embassy in Belgium already responded to this. This report you mentioned is totally groundless. It's nothing but ill-intentioned slander against China. Like we said many times, China always upholds the principle of mutual trust and non-interference in each other's internal affairs when we develop relations with other countries. In recent years, with concerted efforts, China and Belgium have witnessed the steady growth and development in our education cooperation, and we also benefit from this. We urge the Belgian side will look at the exchange of students in a correct, rational, and objective manner, stop issuing irresponsible remarks, and do more to enhance our mutual trust and cooperation. Next question. CNR. According to reports, U.S. Secretary of State Pompeo issued a statement on July the 1st saying that the U.S. Department of State, Department of Treasury, Department of Commerce, and Department of Homeland Security is issuing an advisory to caution businesses about risks of supply chains linked to forced labor in Xinjiang. Do you have any comment? The U.S. anti-China politicians, represented by Mr. Pompeo, have been spreading fallacies on Xinjiang, creating fake news, and wantonly criticizing China's Xinjiang policy and interfering in China's internal affairs time and again. China deplores and rejects that the so-called forced labor is a fabricated matter based on anything but truth by some U.S. and Western institutions and personnel. The rights and interests of workers from ethnic minority groups in Xinjiang as part of China's large workforce are protected by law. They are free to choose a profession and can decide where to work out of their own free will. There is no restriction on their personal freedom. And their religious belief, language, have been protected in accordance with law, and relevant enterprises provide good living and working conditions for these ethnic minority workers and make sure their needs are attended to. And the government of Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region takes active measures to guarantee to the maximum the right to work and employment of people from all ethnic groups. Since 2018, altogether 151,000 people from poor households in southern Xinjiang found employment away from home, earning an annual income of 45,000 RMB on average, and lifting their families out of poverty. How can anyone call this forced labor? Some in the U.S. claim that they care about ethnic minorities in Xinjiang, but at the same time they are taking all sorts of measures to repress Xinjiang enterprises. This inconsistency exposes their hypocrisy and malice in sowing discourse. We urge the U.S. side to respect facts and abandon biases, stop political manipulation, stop erroneous words and deeds detrimental to others and self, stop using Xinjiang as a pretext to disrupt normal cooperation between Chinese and American companies, and do more to enhance mutual trust and cooperation with China. China has unwavering resolution to defend its sovereignty, security, and development interests. Those attempting to undermine stability and prosperity in Xinjiang and contain China's development will not and cannot succeed. Phoenix TV. We've seen reports that an Indian transport minister said it will ban Chinese companies from building roads in India. And reports also say there are some difficulties for customs clearance for Chinese businesses in India. Is China in consultation with India on these matters? And certain politicians in India have been issuing remarks that are detrimental to our bilateral relations recently. Our bilateral relations need to be held with the concerted efforts. Indian side should work with us towards the same goal to uphold the general picture of our common interests in bilateral relations. Artificially setting blocks to our concrete and practical cooperation will also harm India's interests. We will take necessary measures to uphold the legitimate rights of Chinese businesses in India. Next question. On July the 1st, the Australian independent website published a report titled ASPI Strategy Pays Off. It says the Australian Strategic Policy Institute is the number one is promoting China as Australia's number one strategic threat. The ASPI receives funds from multiple sources, and the Department of Defense is the biggest funding source. It received 2.13 million from the Australian government from July 2019 to June 2020. But this institute deliberately covered up this information. Do you have any comment? This is a very good question. Considering that certain people in Australia are always hyping up the so-called China's influence, infiltration, and interference in Australia, and that certain people in the US and Australia have wantonly accused of China's misinformation campaign, I would suggest you ask Australia and the US and hear what they are going to say about this. This is not the first time that the background of this think tank is revealed by media. And this time, the specific figures about the funding have been exposed so clearly. ASPI has been widely criticized by many, including those with vision in Australia, for what it has done. When truth and facts emerge, their fabrication of misinformation and their attempts to slander China will only end up in humiliation. In
response to what you said just about the ban of using
你刚才就印度禁止中国的 APP 还有中国公司参与建设作出回应。印方称这个完全是出于安全的考虑。此外，我们还看到了在边境的冲突，在此背景下，中方有何回应？
我刚才已经十分清楚地表明了中方的立场。
I just stated China's position very clearly. I want to stress that we hope Indian side will work towards the same goal with China to follow the consensus reached between the two heads of states and strictly follow the agreements and treaties signed between the two governments through the military and diplomatic channels, enhance our consultation and coordination to uphold peace and tranquility in the border region. In the meantime, we shall also be aware that India and China are major developing countries. Accelerating the renewal and development are historical missions for both of us. To this end, we have to respect and support each other. This is also in the long-term interest of both sides. If we show misgiving and engage in conflicts, this is not the right way, and also go against the shared aspiration of our people. So we have to follow the consensus reached between the leaders of our two countries, proceed from the overall picture of our bilateral relations. The Indian side should not misjudge. The Indian side should not have strategic miscalculation on China. We hope it will work with China to uphold the overall picture of our bilateral relations. Kyoto News. First question about the China-Indian border issue. It is reported that Prime Minister Modi visited the border area today. Do you have any comment? Second is about Hong Kong. The Japan's ruling party today drafted a bill pointing out that many have been arrested after the passing of the national security law, and the bill expressed grave concern. It asks the Japanese government to cancel President Xi's visit to Japan. Do you have any comment? As to your first question, now India and China are in communication and negotiations on lowering the temperature through military and diplomatic channels. So no party should engage in any action that may escalate the tension at this point. As to your second question, as to the negative fallacies, negative and absurd remarks by the Japanese side regarding Hong Kong, we have lodged stern representations. As to whether it will affect President Xi's planned visit to Japan, for quite a while, China has not engaged in talks with Japanese side on major agenda, and there is no point in hyping up such issue. Certain people in Japan have long been used to pointing fingers at other countries' internal affairs for political gains. I want to say their anti-China play is meaningless to China. We are not interested in and will not waste our time on responding to them. Next question. 法新社，美国国防部近日对中国在南海的西沙群岛的军事演练表达了关切，中方对此有何回应？西沙群岛 is the inherent territory of China. There is no dispute at all. The Chinese military's drill in the relevant region is within our sovereignty and beyond reproach. Certain non-regional country has traveled far to flex their muscle in the South China Sea. This is the root cause for the instability in that region. Any more questions? If there is no more question, thank you for joining today's press conference and enjoy your weekend. Thank you.
So that was the spokesperson of the Chinese Foreign Affairs Ministry there, Zhao Lijian. He came forth and made some important statements, and also he reacted on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Ladakh earlier in the morning. He said that both nations must work in cementing their common interests. He also said that there should be no strategic miscalculations made, and neither country should do anything that would increase the temperature at the border. This is what the Chinese spokesperson of the Foreign Affairs had to say about the Indian Prime Minister's visit to Ladakh earlier in the morning. He also has stressed upon the importance of not making any strategic miscalculations at a point of time like this. And he also said that the Modi-Xi consensus that had been arrived at in the previous meetings between the two leaders is something that the two countries must work upon. So certain important statements there made by the spokesperson of the Chinese Foreign Affairs Ministry. And this also was a session where he touched upon some of the other statements that have been made by the Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in the context of what's been happening in Hong Kong as well. Another important aspect that has been stressed upon is that the tensions that are presently underway at the line of actual control between India and China, the two countries must come together to try and reduce the temperature in terms of the standoff that's been taking place. It's important to lower the temperature, and it's important not to make any strategic miscalculations, is what's been said there.